Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. With the VCT kickoffs officially kicking off next week, there's been lots to talk about the group of death in the Americas side. Leviathan, Loud, Sentinels and the 100T all in the same group, and TenZ has given some interesting perspectives on exactly what Zellsis is bringing to this team, saying that since pANcada stepped away, Zellsis has come in. There's been a change in the energy within the team environment. That's one positive, but also in terms of role dynamics, some very interesting discussions on the fact that TenZ on the Astra is going to be happening this season. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, just to quickly mention for you guys, these are the teams that have qualified through then from the VALORANT challenges over in Malaysia, Singapore. So yeah, DSG of course, they made it through among multiple others. DSG now effectively that Bleed Esports Academy roster with, you know, some quality players on the team, but also a relationship that makes more sense, I think, for Disguised Toast himself than at the previous flushing money down the drain relationship that he had on that DSG roster last season in the Americas. And it's only a couple of days away now until the second set of qualifiers for the final couple of spots really in the Americas Challenger side. So there's another open qualifier, and then from the top 32, the Coast qualifier goes down. We'll see how teams such as SR and others get on there as well, because some teams that were maybe tips to make it didn't quite happen in the end. We've got this from DFM as well. Now, we saw Detonation. They made a controversial roster announcement a couple of days ago, especially because it's only a couple of weeks before the season begins. They dropped a couple of players that people thought were quite promising. They brought in other players, especially players that were formerly part of Crazy Raccoon. Now, they addressed this just because people said, look, DFM, Detonation, Focus Me Gaming, they are the franchise, they are the partner that were selected by Riot to be a partner. Crazy Raccoon were not. And very arguably, people would have said, Crazy Raccoon maybe should have got accepted into partnership over Detonation, which would probably be my perspective, but that's not what happened, right? Detonation were accepted for whatever reason, we don't know Riot's decision making, Crazy Raccoon were not. So they have now, both of those two organizations, come up with a strategic partnership where they will, well, do different sides of the business. At least that's what they say publicly, and that's what they say to Riot Games. But whether that's actually how things go behind the scenes, I guess, is another question. So as they say, we officially announced on February the 5th on Monday, a few days ago now, that the changes that we were going to make and that Medusa, etc. are coming into the roster. The announcement was made after the result of multiple discussions with the coaching staff and players within the team, after trying various things and thoughtful deliberation. The strength of our new roster lies in precise teamwork and the speed of in-game adjustments. For the VCT Pacific, under head coach Estelle, will aim to boost the team's morale and challenge ourselves with new approaches, showing a significantly transformed DFM from last year. So I think they're just speaking words at this point, but they did say, including this announcement, we sincerely accept the criticism and reaffirm our commitment to providing maximum support as a team. Less than 2 weeks away, diligently practicing every single day. Appreciate your support. Now, they also, though, this is probably the most interesting part, clarify on the business collaboration agreement with Crazy Raccoon. In light of this former announcement, the fact that 4 former Crazy Raccoon players have joined the team, there has been some speculation. However, they say they deny all these accusations. The business collaboration agreement with CR is for promotional activities, merchandise sales, and event cooperation. We aim to increase the opportunities we can offer to our fans, working together with CR's strength in graphics and merchandise development and event management. No change to the competitive scene. The players are part of Detonation, and the team management and player support are conducted by Detonation. So they say Crazy Raccoon had nothing to do with the fact that we have signed multiple Crazy Raccoon players, which I'm not sure I necessarily believe, but fair enough. That's what they're going to say, because they want to make it clear to Riot that Crazy Raccoon are not calling the shots here, because that was not the partner that Riot selected. They chose Detonation, although the evidence publicly might somewhat speak otherwise to that effect. But whatever the case is, I don't really mind, because I think arguably Crazy Raccoon could have had this spot in the franchise league in the first place. There was also, though, G2 Gozen confirming their Game Changers roster again. So G2 Gozen making some significant changes actually from last year. Great announcement video here they put together, and this is going to be the roster. So Mimi and Petra, of course, stay. The rest of the team, though, is substantially different. This was rumored for a little bit of time, but Vanyo is in, Rizk is in, and Amy is in as well, with, notably, actually, Roxy moving to the bench, which I know was somewhat controversial. So as she actually says here, with this said, I'm be chilling on the bench, wishing the team all the best and the success that they can potentially have. So thought this is very interesting stuff. There's also been questions as to how they can compete in the VCLs, because as they've discussed here, GC Championship is obviously a goal, but our eyes are on the, the regional leagues, the VCLs, will be the first female team to make it. So there were questions really, because in the Americas, it's pretty obvious if you're SR, you want to qualify for Challengers North America, you play in Challengers North America. But in EMEA, there's all sorts of different potential leagues to go and play for. And as was asked, what VCL region would you play in? And G2 Tybalt, their new coach, was basically saying, look, Riot told us GC players can play in any VCL. So we're looking at VCL, DAC, right? So Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And if you're allowed to play in any VCL, then of course you would probably choose the one where you believe the competition might be, the easiest to accomplish. So wishing everyone on this team, of course, the best going forward. But yeah, got to be said, after G2 just fell short at last year's Game Changers Championship after winning it the year prior, they've made some quite substantial changes to their roster over the last couple of months. Of course, Mary, of course, has retired as well. We saw that announcement a little while ago. Also, we've also got to talk about, though, the franchise partnership piece of the puzzle here. Evil Geniuses are still kind of joking around about the fact that their players are in contract jail. I thought it was funny, right? Because we saw the rumors on this the other day about exactly what happened over the last few months. The fact that they refused to even entertain negotiations for buyouts with their players and held them in contract jail because they were trying to sell them to FlyQuest. Riot then shut that down emphatically, and then they said, okay, we'll sell. So, it's not like this whole contract jail thing was a good thing. It's not like the community likes them for holding the players in contract jail. It's not like, the players themselves were happy being held in the contract jail with Evil Geniuses. So the fact that they continue to kind of joke about it and pretend that their own players are held in contract jail, I think it's pretty funny personally, but it's an interesting marketing move, shall we say, from the organization that is struggling to find friends and maybe fans at the moment. But another great interview yesterday from Pedro Romero. We talked about the one with Victor that he did a few days ago, but he actually got, the glorious king of Sentinels, or whatever people say, TenZ on to give his perspective as well. Few interesting pieces in here. Wanted to share a couple of them. Of course, I'll link the entire interview for you guys down in the description box below if you guys want to check out the whole thing. But a couple of clips here I thought I'd mention. Firstly, secondly, on the roles they are going to be running on the team. We know that TenZ was at the Africa TV tournament. They won on the Omen quite a lot, and that is not going to change. But TenZ actually says that most of the time he is running like the primary smokes. So he is potentially also going to be on the Astra as well. I think he really likes the Omen, though. He made it quite clear in the rest of the interview that using the Omen is like, he really enjoys that role. He has a bit more flair, can use a bit more creativity, but also that's what seems to make the most sense. But TenZ will also be running other smoke agents as well on what is effectively the full-time controller, which is kind of wild, but that's where TenZ will be after all the years as apparently a Jet 1 trick and all this type of stuff, which is clearly no longer the case. But also comments on why Zellsis, not pANcada. We still don't have confirmation. I mean, I say this every single time. Sentinels have never done an official tweet to say Zellsis is in, pANcada is on the bench. But we know that to be the reality. TenZ knows that to be the reality. And he comments on what Zellsis has brought, maybe that pANcada didn't.
Yeah, definitely with the addition of John and Zellsis into our team, it definitely changed things in the team for the better. And just overall, like, I think we do act and play more as a team. It feels a lot more like organized, and we actually have like a proper game plan that we're like following most of the time when we're playing. So I think that's like the main thing. Also, I think our energy dynamic is a lot better than what it used to be before. And that's mainly just in due to part like Jordan's like a really big help for that, just because he's very talkative, he's very energetic, and he can boost the morale and the mood for the team. Yeah, so one of the things I had to pick up mainly was the new roles. So I'm a lot more on like actual like proper controller roles rather than playing like, so we kind of split the controller duties between Zellsis and I. So I'll play more of like the normal smokes, like I'll play Astra, Omen, stuff like that. And Zellsis will then be on like line smokes like Viper, more anchor type. And yeah, so I've just had to learn a new role and get used to that, play a lot during the off season for getting used to it. And overall, like I think I'm feeling a lot more comfortable after like kind of reinventing myself as a player.
So, of course, giving some credit to John QT as well, but saying that Zellsis, the role that he is going to run, makes sense, really, because, of course, with pANcada was the smokes player, right? And we thought, well, okay, Zellsis will run the smokes instead. But actually, in many respects, TenZ is going to run the smokes instead of pANcada, and Zellsis is going to run, secondarily. I'm sure they'll change things around. They're going to be flexible. It's quite clear now that these teams will need to be flexible. It was really not pioneered exactly, but over the last couple of months of the most recent season, teams like just pAPrEx and even NRG and certainly Evil Geniuses were doing, they were so versatile in their compositions that I think it gave them a lot of value. So teams such as Sentinels, they realize that they're trying to become more energized in this sense from the composition standpoint, but also from an actual in-game energy standpoint. Zellsis, no doubt, he brings some serious energy. This guy's loud, he's, boisterous, you could say at the very least, and I think that might be something that the teams need. I think when you're looking at a team culture and composition, you can have certain players that are pretty quiet, pretty reserved, that aren't going to like pop off and go crazy after a big moment. I think it's actually really quite helpful to have a player that does do that, and also is a very talented player in and of his own right, and can call some ideas, is very vocal in of his own personal perspective, right? So I think that he is definitely a valuable asset, but it's interesting to hear TenZ say it outright that Zellsis' energy is one of the reasons why, because his pure ability might not be any better, if not as strong as pANcada's, but clearly the whole energy aspect, which is not a feature which is often talked about when you're forming your roster in the first place, has been very valuable to these guys. So I thought that was very interesting. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Of course, pANcada is listed as one of the world champions that is in this group of death. I mean, there are 7 world champions in a group of 4 teams. It ain't too bad. Now, pANcada is probably going to be on the bench of that with, let's say, 6 world champions, but this is still an unbelievably talented group, and is going to be a difficult group to get out of for sure. 2 teams advance, but at the end of the day, if you're the 3rd best team in this group, then you're certainly not going to be the 2nd best team in your region, which you need to be to qualify for Masters Madrid anyway. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much, because the group is tough for sure, and you don't get, as a great team, any easy warm-ups in the first round if you're any of these teams, but it's going to be fascinating to see how that trends and progresses. And also, just to quickly mention, it's basically a week today when the first match of the Americas kickoff begins, NRG versus Furia, and we'll see if NRG turn out to be as good as some people tend to expect. I've just noticed the small little chat here with the NRG logo, so very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.